All right, I'd like to praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the elders, the great millstone, that's teaching and preaching on the highways and the byways on planet Earth, putting in that work. And all salutations to the brothers of GMS. All right. They be talking about famine on planet Earth. Future prophecies are getting revealed throughout the scriptures. You know, this Habakkuk verse 2 and 3. For the vision is yet for appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. So we seeing on the news, on video clips that's going on in these farms. You see what's going on right now. These future prophecies getting revealed throughout it. Terry, wait for it. You know, be waiting for it right now, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Yep. And for the vision. Yep. And Habakkuk 2 and 2, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that ye may run that read of it. You know. Habakkuk 2 and 3 is nice too. For the vision is not for an appointed time, but the end it shall speak. You know, right now I'm at the end. You know what I'm saying? And you saw rulership, you know what I'm saying? Getting close to the end. You know, waiting on future prophecies to basically happen. Waiting on Esau rulership to go down. Speak and shall speak and not lie throughout it. Wait for it, because it will surely come and it will not tarry. Second Ezra, empty stores. Second Ezra 6, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses, grocery stores, you know, that sell items and merchandise, shall suddenly be found empty. That was Second Ezra 6 and 22. And Shalom, check out the video clip what's going on. It's played on YouTube, you know. And Yaprakah, and your health with your wealth, you know. Shalom, Israel. Shalom. Yep. Future prophecies. Yaprakah.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I've been covering the war, the real war that's going on, which is the war on the citizens around the world, especially here in America, where the number one war going on is the war being created by our own government against us, not just from the angle of the media, which is creating the civil unrest and just driving everybody insane, bleeding people into depression, but also the war on our food supply. The amount of fires that are occurring and the amount of ridiculous, coincidental accidents that are causing food manufacturing plants to shut down is just so ridiculous at this point that people can't see it is amazing to me and everyone else out there. But not only that, we have another story out there now, because apparently when it gets really hot, cattle just croak. Yeah, that's right. You know, you remember driving down the highway, right? A hot summer day, you got the windows down. Maybe you're listening to some 80s music. I don't know, Bryan Adams, Journey. You look out your window and look, all the cattle out in that farm next to your home down the highway, they're all upside down. Huh? And they're all just upside down. And what's the excuse? Well, the excuse is a massive heat wave, as if it's not hot in Kansas normally. Now, this is reported to be 2,000 cattle upside down on the road. The war on our food is about more than just them taking food off the shelves. There are so many things that tie into this, but one of the big things as well is the removal of meat. Remember, the meat ties into the carbon agenda, the climate change agenda. And really what that's about is controlling what we put in our bodies even more than they already do, which is the fact that they want this plant-based diet into people's lives where they tell you it's plant-based. So people go, ooh, that sounds healthy. When it's grown in a lab, in a little dish, right? It's grown in a little dish where they tell you, oh yeah, we're mixing crap together and we're going to feed it to you. And people go, oh, okay. And nobody gets suspicious when they tell you that this is what the plan is. All the billionaires like Bill Gates invest in it. And then they tell us that we need to start removing more and more cattle, because of the, global warming. And then cattle just end up upside down while we're already having a supply chain issue, right? And then on top of all those things, which I'll get back into the cattle and what they're claiming, you even have places like Canada where they're saying warning labels are going to be mandatory to put on meat labels. Warning. So, like usually you get cigarettes, it's got a warning on it. They want to tell you so you don't sue in case you get lung cancer or something like that. I don't know if alcohol has a warning label on it, but don't worry about it. They should put a warning label on every single thing that's, sold in a store to consume through your mouth. Right? Everything in there, because half the label, on the side of the box, half the label is just chemicals. So they should warn you and say, hey, you might be eating weed killer, soft metals, aluminum, all that kind of stuff. Just letting you know, they don't do that. But meat needs a warning label on it. This is Canada, of course, which is they're trying to really compete with China at this point for the most tyrannical government that there is. But this just shows you that there's an agenda tied behind it, right? The government wants to get rid of meat. They want everyone on a plant-based diet. They put warning labels on food, and then cattle are just mysteriously croaking because it's hot outside. It's not 160 degrees, by the way. It's 100 degrees in Kansas. Is that hot? Yeah, it's hot. Has it ever been 100 degrees in Kansas? All the time. It's Kansas, okay? It's the summer. It's mid-June. These things do occur. Have you ever heard stories like this before? You hear a story every summer, right, about cattle croaking. If this was a common occurrence, because it's always hot in Kansas, wouldn't they say, hey, we should probably not farm our cattle here in Kansas because it gets really hot. And when it's really hot, cattle tends to croak. So maybe we should go up to like Maine or somewhere where it's a little bit cooler in the summer. No, you never heard those stories before. So why are they mysteriously croaking? Well, they just say the heat wave because they know people are too stupid to ask questions. Extreme heat and humidity killed thousands of cattle in Kansas in recent days. The state said the sizzling temperatures continue to threaten livestock. I'm sure they do. So the deaths add pain to the U.S. cattle industry as producers have reduced herds due to drought and grapple with feed costs that climbed as Russia's invasion of Ukraine tightened global grain supply. So on top of that, there's feed costs, so they can't afford to feed the cattle. And then on top of that, don't forget the gas prices, because people think like, oh, the gas prices just has to do with like me and you. Oh, us driving to the store, or, we don't want to pay extra money, like the liberal mindset, which of course is the hive mind. They just want you to think like, oh, you're being selfish. Oh, big deal, you have to spend an extra $20. It's not about that. It's about the trickle-down effect. And one of the big problems is that it affects the supply chain because truckers aren't delivering products. Just like we heard the stories about the police aren't going out and monitoring neighborhoods and things like that because the gas prices are so high, which of course is part of the agenda, because I don't see how the police can't go out and. But anyway, the same with this. We heard about, the supply chain. The truckers can't deliver stuff because they have to have the magic potion, or because of the outbreak, there's truckers are quitting. Now the latest thing is that truckers can't afford gas. The companies apparently are going, you know what? We'll just all go bankrupt and we won't deliver the food. Oh, how convenient, right? Then on top of it, of course, you always have in the quotes and things like that from Klaus Schwab and these other people who are telling us in advance that there's going to be food shortages. So how convenient.
History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected.
Because, of course, Klaus knew that there would be cattle croaking, there would be shortages of fertilizer, right? And it's because of this little speck of land over in Ukraine. Because apparently, you guys think back, some of you aren't old enough, like in the 80s with Reagan, or the 90s with Bush or Clinton, or even the 2000s, right? You always were thinking to yourself, man, thank goodness for Ukraine. It really keeps America going. Huh? Right? We always kind of just looked at it like, hey, America's we do this, we take care of ourselves, right? We have our own oil, we have all, no. So all of a sudden we don't have any of that stuff, right? And then of course the right-wing media will tell you, well, it's because the liberals shut all this up. They're all working together to shut down and destroy America, which to me, I believe is the mystery Babylon, which is going to fall. So back to these stories here. The cattle are croaking. Warning labels are being put on food in Canada. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment, warning labels are being put on meat, in Canada. No coincidental stuff there. Klaus Schwab talking about the food shortage. All these factories where planes are flying into it. Then the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, they know of at least 2,000 cattle deaths due to high temperatures and humidity as of Tuesday. So as of Tuesday of this week, the total represents facilities that contacted the agency to help disposing of carcasses. Kansas is the third largest U.S. cattle state behind Texas and Nebraska, with more than 2.4 million cattle. In feedlots, cattle began suffering heat stress as temperatures and humidity spiked over the weekend in western Kansas and cooling winds disappeared. The animals could not assimilate to the sudden change in temperatures. They said it was essentially a perfect storm. I'm sure it was. The injection that whoever gave to them was the perfect storm. Temperatures reached 108 degrees by Monday. And 108 degrees hot. They say this weekend parts of Kansas and Texas will near 110 degrees. But these aren't stories that are normal, because it hits 100 degrees out there. And you never hear stories where they're like, we have to focus on getting our cattle supply up north where it's cooler because we don't want to risk it. They invest in the cattle. It's not like the cattle is just like worms in your backyard, right? It's an investment. They put money in it. So the people who buy the cattle, sell the cattle, sell the meat, they would think this stuff through in advance and say, hey, Kansas might not be the best place, or this might not be the best place. But no, suddenly we're just going to be accepting of this and just say, no, it's extremely hot. And, you could, of course, blame that on global warming, right? Because that's what people automatically do. They just dismiss everything that's going on. And then mixed with that, the constant stories that come out about food chains, right? Food processing plants. We had another plant erupt in flames. Yes, another one. In Wisconsin on Monday, a fire ripped through a pizza-making plant. More than 70 firefighters from multiple fire departments battled a massive fire at Festive Foods. The American Red Cross arrived. Of course, the Red Cross arrived, which, if you don't know, I've covered before. Another occult organization started by a witch, which you can look up for yourself. Just put Red Cross witch, and you'll be able to connect the dots pretty quick. They arrived on the scene shortly after to provide food and water to the firefighters. How kind of them. They might have arrived on the scene before they got there, because they probably are the ones who said it. So you have another food manufacturing plant, Festive Food Manufacturers, frozen pizzas for supermarkets. Why not? Just add it to the list. They do frozen sandwiches, dough products, stuffed appetizer. The company sells its products to supermarkets nationwide, so it's a pretty big supplier. And then they have a list of all these places that have been shut down since 2021 right into here. And 2022 specifically, if you look, it's almost every single day. Every day. Let me read backwards to you, just a few. Listen with me. Ready? June 13th. That would be this one in Wisconsin. June 12th, largest pork company in the U.S. shuts down. Covered that. June 9th, irrigation water canceled in California. June 8th, firefighters in Arcola respond to a fire at Purina feed mill. June 7th, the fire occurred Tuesday evening at the JBS meat packing plant in Green Bay. June 2nd, 30,000 ducks destroyed at Duck Farm, Berks, Pennsylvania. May 31st, 3 million chickens destroyed by a fire at a Forsman facility in Stockholm Township, Minnesota. May 29th, a Saturday night fire destroyed a poultry building at Forsman Farms. Should I continue? May 23rd, 4,000 ducks destroyed at a duck farm in Pennsylvania. 57,000 on May the 21st. Turkeys destroyed in Minnesota. May the 19th, train carrying limestone derailed. So all that was thrown out. May 18th, 7,200 ducks destroyed. Again. May 17th, 79,000 chickens destroyed. May 14th, 83,000 ducks. I mean, you get the point. I could go on and on and on. And on. And I mean, looking at this list, there's 97 instances over the last year and a half. 97. That's a lot. That's a lot. But what do they tell you in the mainstream media? Well, there's tons of plants. This is normal behavior. No one's just noticed before. Oh, no one's noticed before. So why are people noticing now? Because there's an extremely large amount of them. And of course, on top of it, people have become suspicious of what they're doing. And they're doing a really, really bad job at it. I don't know how they can even keep this up at this point. I mean, it is just, if you're really like left out, if you don't see what's going on, like you have to measure people on their brain, what's going on in their head. There are obviously people who are advanced. There are people who are kind of like, stuck in the left, right, but at least like they're kind of familiar of what's going on in the right. People who think that this is all just normal and they're going about their day-to-day life, like, I don't know, like, if there's like a remote control you could hold up to their head, and press the power button and maybe it'll turn them on for a couple minutes so they could see what's going on. I don't know. They're obviously operating on a different frequency. So these are all, of course, convenient stories that play into the narrative of the food supply chain, which is why I'm constantly covering the food supply chain, because it's very important. There's nothing more important in your life than water and food, other than God, of course. But I'm saying as far as the things that you need to survive in a day-to-day, what do we take advantage of and take for granted of the most as human beings our entire lives? Food and water. Because we could just go over to a sink and turn on. We're worried about, oh my gosh, does so-and-so like me? I'm going to text so-and-so. Oh my gosh, does this picture look good for Instagram? This is the society we live in right now. Do you think that, 100 years ago, it was like, where's my next meal? Where's the closest water? I need water. How are we going to hold the water, clean the water, that kind of stuff. Today, it's like, my nails look good for my Instagram picture? So when all this stuff goes down, what do you think these people are going to do? They're going to comply with whatever's asked, which includes taking the mark, which includes whatever the government tells them to do, which of course will be to turn on people like me and you, right? And it doesn't matter, whatever it is. Because when they realize that they don't have a food supply anymore and they don't have water anymore and they literally need it to survive, they're either going to bounce off the walls or they're going to do whatever the government tells them to have it again. And that's why you're seeing this, because this is about control. Since the one-niner started, it's been about control. That's all that it's been about. And that's all it's always been about, is control. That's why the end game to get the mark in you is about total control, right? Being able to control your thoughts, be inside your mind, be inside your body. Well, there's nothing they can use more to their advantage to control people who are not following protocol, or even those who are, to gain more people to bring in to make sure they take their potion and do everything else that they ask, than by controlling the food supply. Then you can go down to a government building or your local township and you'll be able to get food every day and you'll be able to get water. But you got to do this to get in. You got to have this mark to get. This is how this, at least in my opinion, this is where it's heading. But if people don't see the signs of what's going on with the supply chain and they think that this is normal, they're out of their minds. But see, people could still go to their store and obviously everything's still in there for now. But eventually this catches up. And then you see the trickle-down effect. It's not like you're supposed to just go into your grocery tomorrow and there's going to be nothing in the store, okay? That's what these people envision. They're like, I'm just going to go to this. Oh, they hear these stories and they go to the store and like, see, there's no supply food issue. Yeah, until it catches up. It's going to catch up. And that's the point. They can't control the masses the way they want to without controlling food and water. It's the easiest thing to figure out because it's the most needed resource. The only real thing that anyone actually needs to survive on this planet is food and water. They don't need social media, okay? They don't need, all these other stupid things that we have in our lives. They can't live literally without food and water. So the government, who already controls what's in the food and water, wants to take it one step further. They want to control you being able to access it, which is why they don't want you to be able to farm on your own and grow on your own, which is why they've destroyed so many farms. This is just why these spray clouds that fall from the sky, from the planes, the chem clouds, chem dust, whatever you want to call it, chemtrail, but chem dust, for the algorithm, I say chem dust, destroying people's farms, because they want to round and herd everyone up. This is obviously the easiest way to do it. And they can just destroy the supply chain. And then on the national news, the stories are about what a woman is, people's feelings, people who don't accept, people who chop off and John Bob at themselves. Those are things that they want people to care about while they do this under the surface. And then they suddenly can go, oh, there's nothing, and we're Putin, no. And of course, half the zombies believe it. And then there's a proportion of us who are awake and know exactly what they're doing. So be prepared. Little by little, as quickly as you can, make sure you have as much as possible. Food is always something, even if you can eat it at some point if nothing hits the fan anyway. So you're going to need it at some point, right? Might as well have it, especially water. Because we see what's going on with the water supply around the world. They're shutting water down. Somebody posted on the website about in Texas, 165,000 people are going to be without water for the weekend. These are normal stories. No, they're not. Without water, I've heard, they're going to be without power for the weekend, which is still pretty bad, but be without water. They're shutting their water off for the weekend. That's probably not good. It's pretty hard to, food you can go days without. Water, no. What do you need every day? You don't want to get too loopy because, you can die from dehydration, of course. But the less water you have, the more loopy you get, the worse off you are, and the quicker you can croak. So the supply chain is obviously in their hands. You have cattle flipping upside down, blamed on heat, because this is normal, But they say global warming. Well, it's usually 100 degrees in Kansas. They're like, well, it was 108 degrees. Oh, okay. So the extra 8 degrees croaked it. It's never been 108 in Kansas. These are just things that constantly pop up. These stories that are bizarre. And they want you to believe that these are regular things. It's like, oh, that's a regular occurrence. Oh, if a farmer knew that he was going to, because it's not like farmers are billionaires here. Some are, but you get my point. If a farmer knew there was a chance that all of his cattle could die from the heat, he wouldn't, if I gave you 2,000 cattle, let's just close your eyes and think. I gave you 2,000 cattle. And you knew that you could make money off of it, and you wanted to do it, right? Would you take the cattle to Death Valley in Nevada to raise them? Right? Would you? What if I gave you the cattle right in Death Valley? Would you take them? If so, would you say, all right, I'll take the cattle, but I got to figure out how to get out of Death Valley because, well, it's going to be 130 degrees this summer. Oh, I'll croak. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. That would make sense. You'd figure out how to get them out of there, or you wouldn't take them. But you certainly wouldn't start a farm in the middle of, Death Valley with no water or anything else and just dead on sun. Well, in Kansas, it's normal to have cattle. This isn't Death Valley. But apparently now it is, according to the media, because this is how they cover these stories when people turn on their phone and film what they're seeing, which is something that they can't control. Which, again, everything that Satan has as part of his ammo and his plan, which is to connect humans with technology, obviously tons of it backfires against him. Why? Well, because he's a loser, for starters, but because that's how it works, right? This is the plan. Get people inundated with technology, have them always filming stuff, make it a surveillance state without even having to make it a surveillance state because people are constantly filming. But at the same time, people are filming what's actually going on because the mainstream media doesn't cover this stuff. So people are filming it, then it gets out on the internet where they, want to regulate it, but that's another thing. They want everyone connected to the internet because they eventually want human beings connected to the internet. But they didn't factor in the amount of people the internet would actually wake up because the mass amount of information out there from people like me and others out there who speak truth, who debunk Satan's plans. And they go, oh boy. Well, this is one of those things where people are filming this stuff and then they can't really put a spin on it. And if the mainstream media does cover it, they'll say, it'll just be like Snoops or Snopes. Somebody going, oh yeah, no, it's not a conspiracy that 2,000 cows just flipped upside down, all smushed together. They'll come up with some ridiculous excuse because they always do. And the zombies always believe it. So keep an eye on the food shortage change because it's only going to get worse and the stories are only going to get more bizarre and more bizarre. And then you'll have stories mixed in about warning labels being put on meat, warning people about it, and you don't see an agenda tied in, right? You don't see an agenda when Bill Gates and all these guys tell us that we need to get rid of cattle and all this stuff because of global warming. Oh, and then they're all invested heavily in plant-based foods, and then we have a supply chain shortage, and then the only thing that's going to be available eventually is going to be their soylent plant-based garbage, which is people. Yeah, that's how this is all going to work. All the food's going to go, but guess what? Thankfully to science, we have plant-based food ready for us to eat. Oh, great. And that'll be the only thing people can get, and that's how they'll get them on it. Because they've already told us this, predictive programming. Unbelievable that people don't see it. Reminder, check out the website.